Hi, welcome to our show today. And the first thing I'd like to do is thank independent producer Gloria Messer. She's the producer of our show today, and we're going to be talking. My name is Lydia Radin, and I'm the host of Independent Cameras in the Courtroom, Supports Tenants' Rights. And this is my guest today, William Dorrity. Do you want to say hello?
I do.
This is going to be the first of many media events and publicity events that we're going to do because, as I understand, Bill, you have an active court case right now. You're a defendant in an active case in Jersey City, and your attorney is?
Attorney is Vince and Seti in Jersey City.
And the reason why this is so important, you're probably going to get a court date in about 2 or 3 months. Is that correct?
August.
Okay, so this is June of 2012, and you'll probably get a court date in about 2 months. And we're doing a series of public speaking events and television events to publicize 4 really burning issues. And this is happening right now in Jersey City. But one very important issue is you're going to ask permission to have independent cameras in the courtroom when you get your court date. Is that correct?
How that works is my attorney, Vince Ansetti, will ask the presiding judge who will grant permission. And
okay.
That's how it's done.
And you're a tenant in Jersey, and I was a tenant in Jersey, and one of the things that kept happening to us is that we kept getting harassed by our landlords with frivolous lawsuits. So we started a movement, or we joined a movement that's been going on with some tenant organizations for the last 40 years. They've been helping us. This is the New Jersey Tenants Association, and then we've got tenant organizations in Newark. You've started your own tenants association in Jersey City, and I'm helping out here in New York. So we've got this 2-state, at least, tenants organizations, and Manhattan Neighborhood Network, which is where we broadcast out of public access, has been working towards independent cameras in the courtroom, because let's face it, there's only 2 sources of control, right?
Well,
or 3 sources of control.
Well, of course, the judge, then the attorneys, then the third one.
The transcript.
The transcript, of course.
As we're being harassed by our landlords for our efforts in supporting tenants' rights, you've been dragged into court how many times now? This
will be numerous times.
Okay.
But this is the 2nd time on harassment, as you said. Yeah.
As you know, because we're friends, we go to when we leave here today. When we leave this program today, we're going to be dashing over to a Jersey City Council meeting, and we met at Jersey City Council meetings as we're trying to put our issues forward. You know me from Jersey City, and you know I was winning against my landlord 1, 2, 3, 4 times, and as I was dragged through landlord-tenant cases or landlord-tenant trial, there's only 3 points of control in the court system, right? You've got a judge who can be easily influenced, as happened to me, unfortunately. You've got an attorney who can be influenced or intimidated, again, as happened to me. And well, actually, Vince seems like your attorney seems like a pretty stand-up guy. My attorney, unfortunately, was easily influenced. And then you've got the transcript that can be changed. So what we've got is a corrupt court system. And as you and I and other tenant advocates are thinking about this, we're like, what's the single thing that we can do to make sure that this corrupt court system doesn't hurt tenants? And what we came up with was
the independent media, because it's not subject to the manipulation that would otherwise occur in a courtroom.
And that we've been harmed by.
Exactly.
So we're driving forth for independent cameras in the courtroom. One of the things we talked about before the program was in Jersey City, what percentage of the population or the residents are tenants?
Well, I'll put it this way. Newark has a 75% tenant association, tenant livability in Newark. Now, in Jersey City, it's on or about the same level. It could be a little higher than 70% of tenants.
So in Newark, New Jersey, about 75% of the residents are tenants.
Exactly.
And in Jersey City,
pretty much the same thing, although in Jersey City, the tenant residency could be a little bit higher, as I said, than 75%.
So the greater majority, let's say 3/4 of the population are tenants, but the Jersey Journal is not reporting any of this?
There's a news blackout for whatever reason on tenant-landlord issues in Jersey City by the Jersey Journal. This has never been explained to me, and I'm not sure why. I don't want to speculate, of course.
So one of the questions that we were talking about before the show was, why do we have to come, why is it so important that we're broadcasting from Manhattan?
It's very important because now we have exposure. And just a fast one is, for 25 years, this landlord has been floating under the radar. Everything was on a QT. Now everything's open to public scrutiny. We have the Tenants Association, Jersey City Tenants Association. We have yourself, an independent media, and this program. This has never happened before. This is certainly dynamic.
So that's fabulous. So you're a leader of a tenants association in Jersey called the New Jersey Tenants?
No, it's the Jersey City Tenants Association. Now in Newark, they have the Newark Tenants Association. These are two. But Jersey City and Newark are of equal size and proportion and population. They are, in New Jersey, the most dynamic cities.
And Jersey City, with all due respect, they're becoming known as, I hate to say this because it sounds a little insulting to the state of Jersey, but Jersey City is becoming known as almost the 6th borough of Manhattan because so many people live in Jersey City and work in New York.
Yes, and that's because since 9/11, the financial sector has by and large moved to Jersey City because of its geographical location right across the river. Can't get more convenient than that.
Right. And they're developing the waterfront in Jersey City.
They are a number of high-rises, and I understand that Goldman Sachs and several other houses and financial houses have moved to Jersey City. They were prior to this, they were in Manhattan. So.
So what we've got is one of the biggest cities in the state of New Jersey. There are many financial companies have moved over since 9/11 to Jersey City. Most of the tenants there are 3/4 of the, most of the population there, or 3/4 of the population is tenants. And unfortunately, we don't have strong laws that...
As we speak, the landlord lobby in New Jersey is lobbying in Trenton. New Jersey at one time had the worst landlord-tenant laws in the nation. It now has the best because of the result of, we have something like 10,000 tenants associations throughout New Jersey. Our lobbying arm is the NJTO, which is the lobbies for state laws and reforms, which is the reason we have the best landlord. But the landlords, as we say, are now lobbying to reverse all this in Trenton. So we're under attack.
Okay. So one of the things, you're a defendant in an active court case now, and you're probably going to get a court date. You've been threatened with eviction. Your landlord is going through with this. You're probably going to get a court date in about 2 or 3 months. And you feel that if you've got independent cameras in the courtroom and exposure, and you're talking about some of these issues. Well, before we get to that, even though there are, because we discussed this before the program, even though there are laws to try to protect tenants in Jersey, there's supposed to be by law a brochure called Tenants' Rights, or Truth in Renting. And by law, I think it's about 1973, by law, this brochure of tenants' rights is supposed to be handed to tenants by their landlords.
Not being enforced.
It's not being enforced. And for every tenant that a landlord does not give at least this little brochure that gives them some sense of their rights, that landlord could be fined $100.
And this speaks to another issue. The reason landlords can constantly retaliate and evict tenants is because there are no costs involved. The costs are all on the tenants. Boilerplate in every lease, in landlord's lease. But we have to correct all that and level the playing field where every time a landlord loses in court, there are costs involved, attorney's fees, whatever. You see, as it now stands, the onus is always on the tenant, so it's uneven.
So the situation as it stands is you've got these powerful landlords. They can influence the media into not reporting because the
Jersey Journal.
The Jersey Journal is not reporting.
Blackout.
We checked with some of the tenant advocates or leaders in Newark, and they had in recent history one of the biggest rent strikes in Newark, which was not reported
by the Star Ledger over there.
Okay, so you've got the what's seen as the regular press is really turning into more propaganda than free press, and they're not reporting issues that are of importance, not more than just interest, of importance to the day-to-day lives of 3/4 of the population. That's not press, that's propaganda.
Exactly.
So we've got, thank you Manhattan Neighborhood Network, thank you Public Access, and thank you Gloria Messer.
One thing is
for giving us independent media.
Yes, and you're certainly right on the mark when you say exposure with this independent media, and right here is making all the difference in the world. Otherwise, nobody would know what's going on.
So our strategy to a press that's been co-opted and only works for big business interests are the independent free media, public access, YouTube. We're going to produce our own DVDs. We go on public speaking to city council meetings, and one of the things that we were trying to bring out is that when the landlords harass tenants like you with frivolous evictions, there's no costs involved to them. So in New York, there's a law that would give, when a tenant successfully wins against a landlord, they can ask the judge to reimburse them their attorney's fees, so they're made whole again.
Exactly.
And
this is exactly the point. There are no costs to the landlords in New Jersey, and the dynamic now, I think we're moving to change all that, and there will be costs to the landlords, much like New York, henceforth.
And what we'd like to do is thank independently minded New Jersey State Senator Brian Stack, who just last week introduced a bill into the state legislature that would provide attorneys that would allow I want to get the language right, which would allow tenants to recover their attorney's fees in successful defenses or actions against their landlord. As it
now stands, there's boilerplate in every landlord's lease, which only allows the landlord to recover attorney's fees. But as a result of Senator Stack's bill, this will change and now tenants will be able to, and again, it will impose a lot of restrictions on the landlord because now there are costs. Before, it was a free ride.
So basically, when a landlord in New Jersey gives you a lease, he gets all the rights and you don't.
Exactly. Every lease is like that in New Jersey. So this is the first step to changing all that. Okay,
so that's inherently unfair. If you're a tenant in New Jersey, it's boilerplated, or the clauses include boilerplated means that there's a clause included in every lease.
Yeah.
Where if the landlord takes the tenant to court and he wins, he gets his attorney's fees paid. But if a tenant wins against the landlord, their fees are not paid.
They get jacked.
Right.
Exactly.
So that the cost of paying an attorney oftentimes is a barrier for justice for tenants, and landlords know that and use that as weapons against them.
The point is that tenants, by and large, can least afford attorney's fees, whereas landlords have infinite resources.
Or greater
waivers, resources, money. And this legislation and this court case is on the road to changing all that.
So your case, and we met with your attorney last week, could be a landmark case, because what you're asking for is you want independent cameras in the courtroom, so even if the judge is manipulated, your attorney is pressured, even though the transcript could be manipulated, which we've seen happen, a protection for justice is independent cameras in the courtroom.
Exactly.
We've noticed that landlords are supposed to provide tenants with the statement of tenant, a brochure.
Truth in renting.
Truth in renting. They don't.
They don't.
And they're supposed to, some landlords do, but they're few and far between.
It's not being enforced.
Right. So for every tenant that doesn't get that truth in renting, there is supposed to be by law a $100 fine.
Exactly.
But that's not being imposed. So we want that fine enforced so that tenants at least have something. And when I read the law, when I checked, it's supposed to be in English and Spanish.
Exactly.
Which is huge in Hudson County where you live, because 40% of the population is Spanish.
Exactly.
And we want a new state law that was just introduced last week.
Senator Stagg.
Right. And today's date is what, June, is today the 5th or the 6th? The 6th.
Today is June the 6th, exactly.
Right, today is Wednesday, June 6, 2012.
Yes.
And just last week, independently minded State Senator Brian Stack introduced legislation that would level the playing field, so there isn't this huge imbalance, which, by the way, doesn't usually exist anywhere else in the law. Usually, you know, according to the principles of contract law, and a lease is just a contract.
Yes.
We never see these inherently, you know,
unequal.
Yeah, unfair, unequal.
Unfair.
So what we're trying to do is bring basic fairness to both sides.
Exactly.
So you want the new state law that would allow tenants to recover their attorney's fees too, so they could be made whole.
Yes.
And what else are you asking for in your court case?
We're asking for, well, as you said, attorney's fees. We're also asking for security guards. Now, what's happening is...
Wait, let's help the audience understand. You live in a large building called the Grandview, yes?
Yes.
And it's got about how many tenants?
280 units.
280 units. And the Grandview is there for senior citizens and for disabled.
Exactly.
And you're asking now, because you're very active, you go to Jersey City meetings, council meetings all the time, and you're asking your city council to pass a new state law that would provide security guard?
The city council would pass an ordinance, not a state law.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Now, the state law would mandate 24/7 security guards, and they would have to be an outside firm, so the landlord can't just put the janitor sitting at the desk when he's taking a break from mopping or taking out the garbage, which is now standard. So to prevent this sort of manipulation, hanky-panky, we want the ordinance to specifically state an outside security firm, and 24/7, not just from 10 at night to 6 in the morning, as we now have. What about the other times when nobody's at the desk? You yourself came to a tenants association meeting, and there's nobody working the security desk in the lobby. How'd you get in?
I just, there was absolutely no security. I just breezed in. Anybody can walk. And
anybody does.
And I was a little surprised because, this is a building with senior citizens and disabled. This is not just, a private residency. This is a large multi-unit dwelling for
over 100 units is supposed to be eligible for this kind of program, security guard.
So the tenants, one of the reasons you're doing as much publicity as you can is because the tenants are under the misapprehension that if the city council passes an ordinance,
they'll be charged.
that would require security guards 24/7, that their rents would go up.
Exactly.
Is that true?
That is not true, because the landlord gets a tax write-off. Now, the problem is that even though the landlord gets a tax write-off, this landlord has convinced the tenants that, oh, that's not the case. I do not get it. And they believe it. So if anybody has an independent survey, do you want security guards? All those tenants will automatically say, no, we don't want security guards. And you can't tell them anything else. The landlord said it. Nobody can tell them anything else. So we have to get past this sort of
disinformation.
Disinformation, if you will, or yeah.
So you're trying to get a Jersey City ordinance for 24/7 security guards.
Exactly.
In a place that's most of the residents are senior citizens and disabled people. The provision is that this would not raise the rents. All the tenants in the Grandview have...
Despite the propaganda, the landlord's propaganda.
Right,
exactly.
and they automatically, the residents unfortunately automatically believe the landlord. They don't do their own independent research. They don't question. So you're a great big hero because you're one of the tenants who came forward.
Thank you. At least somebody recognizes.
Because you came forward and you did your own independent research. You did your own questioning. The rents would not go up. The provision is that the landlord would be able to take this extra expense as a deduction in net income, so that the purpose of
it's a write-off.
Yeah, it's a tax deduction.
Okay. Now, I've often been asked the question of why am I involved in pushing tenants' rights at this level? Well, I never had any intention of it, but events rolled along, one thing after another, and before you know it, somebody's got to do it. So
somebody's got to do something. You didn't know it was going to be
Might
you.
as well be me.
So, and we were talking before the program, and one of the things we were talking about is that the justice you get. We were talking about Martin Luther King is famous for a quote that says, "Through time, there's this arc of the arc of events, or the arc of history slowly turns towards justice." Mm-hmm. And with great respect, I disagree. I think the justice you get is the justice you make.
Exactly.
So you're making you didn't plan on being a hero.
But since I'm here, I got to do it.
You didn't think it was going to be you, right. But it is. So we're going to roll with it.
We're going to go with the flow.
Right. And since the landlord has picked on you.
Exactly.
And the reason he's taking you into court, he's trying to evict you.
It's retaliation.
Right. He's picked on you, and he's trumped up these issues, and he's defamed you with all kinds of horrible stories. We talked to your attorney, Mr. Vince Ansetti. Invited me to a meeting that we had in your office last week, and hopefully we can get him on my program, because I do a program too, and some more publicity, so he can talk about it.
I'm sure he will.
He's convinced that you're going to win your case, that the landlord's action against you is groundless. Mm-hmm. He's trying to settle this amiably, should you go to, when you get your court date in about two months or so, one of the reasons why we're trying to educate the tenants who have some disinformation is because when the judge rules on this case, he's going to be ruling, and we want him to have some input on the community conscience. Mm-hmm. So we're trying to educate the tenants at the Grandview. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
The judge isn't simply going to rule on my case. Okay. The judge will be ruling on the larger issues. Whose responsibility is it for safety and security in the building? Is it the tenants or the landlord? And things of that nature. Attorney fees, the judge will be ruling on that.
Because you'll be asking for it.
Yeah, of course, in my case. But all this court case is doing is driving legislation at the level of the state level and the city level, or ordinance.
So you're hoping that with this court case, if you go through, all the costs involved, all the emotional trauma involved, all the things that you have to do, that you can drive legislation forward through your case that will ultimately protect people.
Exactly. The judge will be ruling on the larger issues, not only on my individual case, as you said.
So you're using your case to establish case law as authority so that you can hopefully go to the state legislature and say, we've got case law. You're driving
legislation.
You're driving legislation so that on a statewide level, tenants will be able to get a law that says tenants can recover attorney's fees too. Mm-hmm. On the city level, you want an ordinance to have 24-hour security guard.
24/7.
Because it's ridiculous. When I waltzed into your building, I mean, you were in your
16th floor.
You're at the 16th floor. You have no idea what's going on the ground floor.
Exactly.
Anybody can walk in.
And anybody does.
And it's a burden. Yeah, they do, because I waltzed my way.
Obviously.
I was their little test.
Sure.
But the burden of providing controlling who comes in and out of the building is not on the tenants, it's on the landlord.
Yeah, as it now stands, the landlord says the burden for safety and security in the building is the tenant's responsibility. My court case is hopefully will change all that, and the judge, and it will be a ruling by the court. It is the landlord's responsibility. This is very important because legislation is being stalled now, and for whatever reason,
at the Jersey City Council?
And at the Jersey City Council, and we feel that once there's a court ruling, that will break the logjam, and it will.
So even though you've tried to ask the Jersey City Council to pass an ordinance, it's being stalled.
For some reason or other, it's being stalled. The ordinance was introduced, then it was withdrawn hastily because there were not the 6 votes to pass it into law.
Okay, so let me sum up what you're doing. You're using your court, you're going through all the trouble and expense, and you're using your court case because you want independent cameras in the courtroom.
Yes.
You want a new state law to allow tenants to recover attorney's fees.
Exactly.
You want security guards,
yes.
And you feel this is particularly important in a place where you have senior citizens and disabled people.
Yes,
and even though your landlord does provide you with a statement of tenants' rights, many landlords don't.
Exactly.
And the law says they should be fined $100 for each time they don't do that, and you want that enforced.
Enforcement, exactly.
So if you get these 4 things, you will do a huge service to protecting people on the city level and the state level. Bill, you're a great big hero.
All right,
God bless you.
Good.
This is going to be the first in a series of public access shows that you're going to do. I understand that you public speak at the Jersey City Council meeting
twice a month.
Twice a month. You've asked me to bring my cameras to film you and your attorney Vince.
Exactly.
Vince Ansetti.
Vince Ansetti.
And so in the weeks and months leading up to your court date, you're going to be doing as much as you can to get as much publicity. Exposure. Because exposure is what you feel is going to drive these initiatives forward, because ultimately they protect people.
Exactly.
And they're going to protect the citizens in your town and the citizens in your state.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're a great big hero here.
And I thank you, Lydia. I thank you.
And we'd like to thank Gloria Messer,
of course,
the independent producer who has very generously given some of her programming time. And we'd like to thank all the good people here at Manhattan Neighborhood Network.
Yes, indeed.
For public access, so that we can generate support for these initiatives. You're a great big hero. God bless you, Bill. Bye. Good luck.
Thank you.